I want to welcome everybody to the ongoing Encinitas Chamber of Commerce webinar and kind of business education courses and webinars. I'd like to welcome, we have quite a few members of the Cal State San Marcos team here, and they're going to give us a great presentation about how to restore and recover and grow your business. But first, I want to mention the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce is really here to support not only the Encinitas Chamber, Encinitas region and businesses, but the whole region, the whole area around. And we have a great host of partners here for this webinar that I'd like to mention. And thank the Encinitas 101, Leucadia 101, Cardiff 101, the Solana Beach Chamber of Commerce, and the Del Mar Village Association, who have all partnered on this webinar. This is much needed, I think, for all businesses of sizes and shapes. And different businesses industries. So we're really thankful for having such great leaders so close by in a great university that can really kind of help the community as they're doing now. And I'd like to introduce Jim. Jim Hammerly is responsible for the culture, strategic planning, relationships with the community for the College of Business Administration at Cal State San Marcos. He has over 10 years of teaching experience specializing in entrepreneurship. Jim also serves on the board of community service organizations, new ventures, and business incubators. Before joining Cal State University San Marcos, Jim has over 30 years of business experience, 15 as an entrepreneur and 15 doing corporate research and venturing into large corporations, including senior executive positions. That was, I feel like I need to go back to school to fully read that intro to its fullest. But I'd like to welcome Jim from Cal State San Marcos.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Chamber members for attending today. Two important things we do in the College of Business Administration are obviously to educate and prepare our students to enter the business world, but we also assist our local business communities. Frankly, we've done over 2,000 projects with 9,000 students for the community, and today you'll hear a little bit more about that. But I'd like to start off by introducing Paige Bailey, who's going to run our interactive Q&A session here. This is just a little bit of a chance for us to learn a little bit more about you. So Paige, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to be running the presentation today, and I have a small favor for you to do for me here. The link in the chat is going to open our Mentimeter software. So I'm going to share my screen here and we can get started. So if you could take that link in the chat and open up a small window like you see here on my screen, that'll allow you to kind of follow along with us and vote on some of the content we're going to discuss today. So I'll give you guys just about a minute to work on that. And I can't see the chat, Jim, so hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the Mentimeter, the first slide.
Right, so I'm just moving on to that now.
Okay, sorry.
So we've got
there we go.
One participant here. Thank you for your submission. So hoping the rest of our participants can grab a small tab here and write in a short answer, just calling out this is anonymous. So just gonna help us kind of drive the content today. Oh, great. Lost revenues, thank you. Employee engagement, definitely gonna cover that topic today. Growth goals, wonderful. Let's go another like 15, 20 seconds. Virtual work is tough, definitely agree. All right. Looks like we have almost everyone that's joining us today participating. So this is just to kind of give us a rough idea of what concerns you guys are coming in to our meeting with today. Revenue generation, Zoom fatigue, definitely. So moving on to a little bit of data that we have collected from the college. I'm gonna have Jim take it over from here with this slide.
Sure, so the slide that Paige just brought up shows you the results of some surveys we did earlier this year of local businesses that we work with. You can see where the problem areas are, probably similar to what you've experienced. You may have also seen a recent survey that was done by the San Diego Chamber reported about 2 weeks ago that said 41% of businesses saw revenue declines by up to 81 to 100%. 93% saw staffing declines, and 47% of reported workspace changes that they expect to continue after the state of emergency is over, whenever that will be. And it seems like that's just pushing out in time. So what we've done is we've assembled a group of consultants and faculty members from the college that work very closely with us and broken down these areas into 4 what we call pillars. And if you could forward to, thank you. So here are the 4 pillars that we consider characterize the most serious problems that small businesses are facing. And we have an executive that is prepared to speak to each of them. So let me just real quickly highlight that our offering today, what we're offering to members of the chamber, is several hours of pro bono consultation with you as business owners, which our team, the assembled team here, will then review and return with a 1-page series of recommendations, as well as resources that we hope will be helpful to you. Again, this is a pro bono consultation, and we'll say a little bit more about that at the end. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nuala, who is our people pivot person. Nuala?
All right. So I guess it's about midday. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As Jim said, my name is Nuala Campany. I am currently, I teach in the College of Business at Cal State San Marcos. I formerly was the Director of Organization Development at Qualcomm, and I have probably about 25 years of kind of organization and talent development experience across a very broad range of industries, as well as kind of large and small companies. And I'm very excited to be working as part of this team.
Thank you, Nuala. So we're going to go again into a voting survey here. So these are 3 things that Nuala has identified as top level of concern, but we just want you to kind of go in there and vote on which issue is most important to you right now in regards to your employees and people of your organization. So if you can go back to your small window there with Mentimeter, you should see the ranking employee issues slide pop up. Excellent. Getting some participants here. Give it another about 30 seconds. Okay. So it looks like we've got a couple of voters here. I guess we'll go ahead and get started, Nuala. So it looks like drop-in engagement or motivation for employees is the most important concern for our group today. Next would be restructuring of teams or the hierarchy. Oh, it's coming up a little bit more important there. And third would be the need for upskilling or cross-training. But drop-in engagement is definitely something they'd like to hear about today.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's and not surprising. I think we're seeing a lot of data around, you know, sort of employee retention and engagement, and we can really think of those kind of as 2 sides of the same coin. You know, and it's not surprising that employees' morale and optimism has suffered, you know, and where are we, month 5 or 6 now? So, you know, sort of thinking about kind of immediate actions, I think one of the things that, you know, I'd always recommend is doing a risk assessment of your talent, you know, identifying kind of all of your who are the key employees, and that can be at all levels of your organization, not just management levels, but, you know, frontline workers. And then, you know, a simple thing is to do a stay conversation with each of them, you know, to really understand what motivates them. And, you know, we may think that we know, but, you know, until we sit down with each individual and have the conversation, we don't really know. Something else I think can be super helpful is to do a simple pulse survey. That way, you know, it's a great way to get feedback. You know, you can do it anonymously from employees so that you can get a level, you know, you get that sort of a read on the level of engagement. You know, and, you know, sort of asking employees, I mean, are they getting to do their best work every day? Are they using their skills to full advantage? Are they getting the feedback that they need? Do they understand the company's goals and directions? I think we've already seen a point about working remotely. Are they struggling with that? Do they have concerns about workplace safety? I mean, so this way, you can get a read, and then once you have that data, then you can really sort of look to what are the appropriate actions. It's a great opportunity to ask employees, what's one thing that would help, asking, for comments as well. From there, then you kind of know what the areas of strength are, and then you can also look at kind of what are the gaps. And it could be as simple as, supervisors needing some simple tools and training to improve their kind of coaching skills. Maybe it's a communication plan so that you're able to really ensure everyone's clear on the goals and direction. So I think that's a really good way to, to leverage that data. I think those were the two, that was kind of the key point. Was there another one that we need to cover?
I think you covered it. We did also mention restructuring of their hierarchy.
Right, yeah. Sorry, it's hard to see all the things at once. So yeah, a lot of times when we have changes in, our strategy, our markets, we find we need to pivot. There's a huge need for, sort of looking at kind of how the organization's structured. Maybe this is an opportunity to, increase efficiency. Are we seeing bottlenecks? Are there changes? Are we seeing kind of lack of role clarity about who's responsible for what? Confusion around decision making. All of these. So, doing some sort of simple process mapping is a great way to kind of facilitate a structured discussion around roles and responsibilities or decision rights in these situations. And by involving kind of the folks closest to the work, it's a really good way of increasing engagement and buy-in. So those are just a couple of suggestions, that kind of tools that we would be looking at in those situations. And then obviously the upskilling and, cross training. So, really kind of the need to do a kind of simple needs assessment to really understand who needs what, and kind of the best way to deliver it, and then creating a training plan. And again, there's some good opportunities to increase employee engagement. If we've kind of understood kind of who are our most skilled people who could actually help to mentor others and train, that can be a good way of, kind of increasing engagement and productivity. So I will pause there.
Thank you, Nuala.
Yeah.
And we'll circle back for questions at the end of the presentation.
Sure. Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
So let's move on to Miguel. Miguel, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. So my name is Miguel de Jesus. I am on faculty, and I also run the community-facing programs of senior experience, master's experience, and the Office of Business Research and Analysis on behalf of the university, on behalf of the students. So I've got a few years in business leadership, management, global sales with 2 Fortune 500 companies. I've managed a $200 million sales organization as a VP of sales, and most currently provide leadership and sales training to professionals as well as to the students at Cal State San Marcos.
Thank you, Miguel. So we're going to launch again into a ranking of growth issues that your organization is facing. So if you pull up your Mentimeter tab, we're going to head to the next slide. And if you could just vote on these 3 topics for us, give it about 30 seconds. Got a couple votes coming in. A little bit longer while people are deciding. All right. So Miguel, if you want to get started, it looks like re-engaging past customers and getting new customers is still the top concern for our group today.
All right, great. Thank you for that introduction and to the participants for providing some thinking. So I'm going to review very quickly with you at a very high level some items, some ideas, some thoughts. And one of the first meme or thought that I'd like to share with you is that as business people, you have tried a lot of things in the past. And if we can, for the next 7 minutes, think about what I'm going to cover from the standpoint of tabling the idea and the notion that I've tried that and it didn't work for me, and just put it in the parking lot as a thought process, then go open-minded with what I'm going to share with you, because it's going to require some new thinking. And part of the program that we have, which is the response recovery and resource program, has to do with mindset, skill sets, and tool sets. So a question that I've got for everyone, not looking for an answer, but simply consider this. Do you have a current client referral program that is working for you? Or do you have a loyalty program for your existing clients? Not knowing the businesses that you're all in, some of you are retail, some of you may be in the service business, business to consumer or business to business. Not knowing that, I am pretty sure that most of you should have or could have a mechanism by which to stay in touch with your clients. So re-engaging previous customers has to do with having a system in place to do that with. So I don't know if you're using any mail programs, whether you're using any other systems to help you, but from the standpoint of new customers, you have to have existing strategies and programs that are going to cause you to get people to want to engage with you, to get people to want to listen to you. So the first question I would ask you in a consulting manner would be, do you have a current client referral program or a loyalty program? The second one I would ask is, how do you recognize from a very interpersonal standpoint key events and or dates for your clients, the ones that visit you? Now, it would be difficult to recognize anything if you're not currently keeping track of any of the information. But if you did, wouldn't it be nice that they received from you an email on their birthday, or some type of communication, some type of card, electronic card from you during these times? Because as you probably have figured out already, COVID-19 is going to be with us for a while, and recovery timeframe may take as long as 12 to 18 months. We don't know. But in terms of your thinking and how you position yourself today, it becomes very important for you to have that as a consideration. Another thing is, how do you keep track of all your current client referrals? So assuming you have a referral program, how do you keep track of it today? Again, to the benefit of everyone on this call, there are sufficient digital services and apps available for you to keep track of that fairly simply and fairly effortlessly. So let me talk a little bit about transitioning online. Transitioning online is going to require you to do some forward thinking. And I'm glad we have Alex on the line, because Alex does great work in video, and everything that you do should be captured in video for a whole host of applications for you. So here's a concept for you and your business to consider moving forward. Anything and everything that you do should be done from the perspective of promoting you and your business everywhere. And what I mean by everywhere where there's a digital footprint that you know, like, trust, and can actually adopt in your business. Video happens to be one of the biggest trends in 2020 for businesses to capture, to focus on. An even bigger element is going to be storytelling. So the ability to tell stories through video is an awesome strategy to implement, whether you're in retail, wholesale, B2B, or B2C business. From that standpoint, it becomes a very important element of business communication, business growth, and the ability for you to build your list. If I asked the people on the call, the people who responded, how big is your current mailing list? What would you tell me? Is it 200? Is it 100? Is it 0? Well, starting tomorrow, you can basically put a system and a program in place to begin to capture that. Let me give you an example. I've done some basic consulting with restaurants, and restaurants are suffering from a couple of things. And they're using Band-Aids right now to help themselves solve some of their business issues. And so what are the Band-Aids? Well, let's talk about something as simple as menus. Those people that are using laminated menus, you got outdated menus, they don't work anymore. You can't update them quickly, and it costs you, lamination costs about $3 to $4. Plus you've got to create the graphic. And if it's 4-color artwork, you're talking about $5 a piece. So you're talking about, before you serve anybody, it just costs you about $10 to create your marketing materials. In a post-COVID world, you have to think differently. And what that means is sanitizing and wiping down your laminated menus is not a good solution. The other piece of it, and I've been to several restaurants, are using disposable menus. Well, okay, that's a little more cost effective, but there are even better ways to handle that. And what's the best way? Roughly 85 to 90% of people use digital phones. So a question I would ask you, whether you're in retail, restaurant, or in any service business, is how do you communicate? How do your website show up on those mobile devices? Because if it's not mobile friendly, I guarantee you are losing connection and you're losing engagement and you're missing an opportunity to stay in touch with your primary best customers for you. So that's a little piece on the digital marketing, a little piece on the transitioning online. And transitioning online is not an easy task. You're going to need some guidance, some expertise, some knowledge, and some investment in your own time and efforts in order to make that transition. And let me make a final statement on menus. So you're all in some type of competitive business environment. One of the things that we do and provide our clients is do what's called SWOT analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in any specific business category that we're in. And that is very important going forward, especially if you're interested in digitizing your business and you being everywhere now. So everywhere now. I did a podcast for this another Chamber of Commerce. Just promoted it through Facebook, and I'm going to measure the clicks, the conversions, and the people who clicked on a secondary link to find out engagement. How did I do that? Through Facebook. So there are various ways for you to promote your business. Organic search is one of them, which means you spend $0 for ad spend. But another way that's very effective is through ad spend, which means you have to find and attract your very best customers and engage them with your business. Anyway, that is my short, brief discussion of the 3 elements of my plank. So I'll turn it over to Sam, who's right behind me, I believe.
Professor Clark, are you there?
You're muted, Sam.
Somehow I'm muted.
There you go.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Sam Clark. I'm an assistant professor of entrepreneurship at the College of Business. And I'm also the director of the Innovation Hub at CSUSM and a serial entrepreneur, and have experience in software companies, healthcare companies, retail companies, and focus a lot on business processes. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about pivoting and the things that you may need to do to refocus your process, your value propositions going forward to this current pandemic and post-pandemic situation that you'll be facing. So I'll let Paige go ahead and administer the survey, see if we can find out what people are most interested in.
Thank you, Sam. All right, everyone, if you grab your Mentimeter tab, please. These are our 3 identified pivot issues that we'd like to discuss today, but we'd kind of like to get an idea of which one is the most pressing issue for you right now. Give about 30 seconds. About 30 seconds of voting. And Sam, you just remind me if you can see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm good. So we got number 1, changing customer needs. And it makes complete sense because the world has changed quite drastically in such a short period of time. And people are kind of reevaluating what is necessary. And so we look at this happening with a lot of different businesses, the change in what their value propositions they're offering currently, and how those might need to change for the future. So I'll share a quick example that I've been working with about 4,000 retailers across country. We offer a program for them. And one of the things that we found in this process is that and Amazon's been kind of playing with this for a while, in a sense that people have more of a need to stay home than go shopping, right? So in a retail environment, this is an example of where Amazon's been successful. They've attacked the need for convenience, and that need has only grown in the pandemic period of time, where the necessity or the need to go shopping, to try things on, or to handle the products or to see the products, that has all gone away. And as a result, the value proposition that these retailers are offering, right, in competition against Amazon, right, that one value proposition that set them apart is that the people wanted to come in, for example, and try on clothing. Well, that one value proposition has gone away during the pandemic. So how do they compete against Amazon? Well, you have to rethink about what are some of the other essential needs that the customers will have, and try to address those. It's very hard to compete on convenience against Amazon if that's the only other value proposition you have from transferring, for example, online. So what we do and what we hope to help you guys accomplish is, for example, one of the tools that we use as entrepreneurs, and it's kind of the starting point for any entrepreneurial opportunity, is to assess our customers' needs and to do what we call customer discovery. And so as a university, and it's something that we teach entrepreneuring students, we work with small businesses and so forth, to really go through a process of customer discovery, where we go out and we talk to customers and try to learn about what needs they're really trying to, that they have, and what you can do. Once we understand the customer needs, then you can reposition your value propositions to meet those needs. And it might come with a change in product. It might come with a change in distribution. It may need to, new partners. We can then kind of pivot your business model to adjust to the future needs. So that's one example with the retailers. We also saw another example with breweries. Something I've been helping with the local breweries is, again, a change in their business model, a change in how they, the needs of the customers. Traditionally, these local craft brewers used tap rooms, or their tap rooms, to generate the majority of their revenue. Well, with the pandemic, those things closed, and as a result, the needs of the customers, it changed. Like, they weren't going to the tap rooms, they weren't spending the money, and as the breweries were struggling. So the company had to address that. Yes, there was still an interest in purchasing beer, but the need for using a space to do that was limited. So what did we do? We looked at how to create distribution for them. So the company set up their own websites, sold directly to consumers, contracted with partners, key partners, and added partners to do the deliveries of the beer. And so they were able to shift kind of their business model in order to attach it to a new need of customers in this pandemic period of time. So that's what we do. Is we do things like customer discovery, we do value proposition canvassing, we do business model pivoting. Those are things that we can help you with if you're struggling with changing needs. And hopefully by doing those, we can find where your product best meets the needs of the customers in the community which you serve. All right, let's move on.
Thank you, Sam. We'll move on to Scott Corvo. Scott?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim, and welcome to everybody. I've been associated with the university for the past 3 years, mostly as a coach with the students in terms of helping them think through their careers and so forth. I spent the last 35 years in mostly senior corporate executive roles across sales, marketing, general management. The first part of my career, 20 years, I was in consumer products, sales and marketing. I was president of a cranberry juice company which is an interesting side story if you ever want to talk about that. I was the CEO of a startup. That's where I really learned the nuts and bolts of running a business. And again, no revenue and greenfield, so to speak. And I spent the last 10 years in various corporate roles with an Australian company. And I was my last role was president of the largest global business unit based in Brussels, Belgium. So I've got a strong international perspective that can help in some way. And a lot of my efforts were also on mergers and acquisitions. I've done over 14 of them across countries, including France, the UK, Poland, Brazil, the United States. So I have a good perspective on that. And I do spend the rest of my time today is really about advisory work with private equity and mergers and acquisitions that I do in some small ways co-invest. And I probably spend most of my time now really doing what I call good work. So I'm trying to give back more, and I'm associated with an orphanage in Mexico where we really are providing housing and schooling for trafficked kids and so forth. So I spent a great deal of time doing that. And my whole role here is to talk about, profit, which right now I'm sure everybody's concerned about. It's a big issue, especially if you have a medium to small business. You're hand to mouth in many ways, revenue shrinking. So let's take a look at what some of your major priorities are, and hopefully I can address some of those.
Thank you, Scott. So everyone, if you could grab your Mentimeter tab, please. We're gonna do some voting here on profit issues your business is struggling with. Give it about 30 seconds. All right, Scott, and you're able to see these results coming in on your screen? Perfect.
Good. Okay. Well, no surprise. And these things are interrelated in many, many ways, but it sounds like, cash flow is king. It is anytime you're running a company or a business. And I always like to start with a very detailed understanding of sources and uses of cash. You don't have to get terribly sophisticated about it, but understanding, where you're making your money and where all those dollars are going. And we can, sit down and do some diagnostics to try to understand where sources and uses are coming from. But most importantly, also then be prepared to say, okay, what does that look like for the future over the next 12 to 18 months? And so I'm very keen on doing a lot of what I call scenario planning, especially in this kind of environment, and test those with sensitivities to understand, okay, well, if our revenue is going to drop 20% and I know my sources and uses of cash today, what's that going to look like over the next, year, 2 years? And I'm a firm believer, maybe I'm a bit of an optimist here, but I think we're kind of going through many of the things that I saw in the Great Recession. I can recall, when sources and uses of cash, even for a large company, this was a big focus, really understanding your payables, your receivables. There's many ways to work with your vendors, your suppliers, by the way, all of whom are struggling just like you to try to understand, how they're going to get through this thing, whether it's extending those payables or whether it's collecting receivables sooner. And it depends, of course, if you have a service business or a product related business, but really understanding that cash flow is absolutely important. And there's also other ways in today's world, especially, there's a lot of help out there for small companies to try to get money, through grants. And I know there's been some difficulty with that. And there's a lot of ways to really sort of look at where you're going to gain those sources of cash beyond just a shrinking revenue base. So I like to think of it that way. Equally, I sort of a Pareto rule that I have is looking at where your real profits are coming from. And you'd be surprised how much time, energy, and money you might be wasting. And so shifting gears a bit and focusing on those things that drive the most profitability, especially when in this kind of environment, is critical, including even in some cases taking pricing. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but believe me, you might be surprised on some of those services or products you offer that people are willing to pay a little bit more for. So, again, these are all sort of intertwined, but cash flow is everything. And it really starts with a good understanding of your forecast, scenario planning, and understanding sources and uses of cash.
All right.
Okay, Jim, yep.
Give it back to Dean Hammerly now.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So in summary, what we're offering today is several hours of pro bono consultation with you as business owner. Our assembled team, if you've heard 4 of them today, it's larger than that. And the intake process is basically to fill out a very simple application. You see the URL on the screen there, and we'll also, Paige, if you could put that in the chat. The idea is that we'll have a very brief intake conversation with you, 20 to 30 minutes total. And at the terminus of that, we will assemble our team. So you'll hear from us within about 48 hours if you choose to participate. You'll hear from us within 48 hours. And at the end of that intake process, we'll decide whether or not we have some suggestions, and then sit down with you, maybe spend 1 or 2 hours at most in consultation. And the end result of that will be a 1-page series of recommendations as well as resources helpful to you. Now, I'll mention that we're doing this on an experimental basis over the summer. We're going to be doing it for another 2 weeks. So it's pretty important that you respond. Most of you either have seen something you find interesting and will submit a recommended or a suggested problem that you're facing today, and we'd encourage you to do that. And we'll respond to you within 48 hours and then move on from there. So at this point, we're going to open it up for questions. And if you could use the chat, and we'll redirect questions to the proper individuals. So any questions about what we're offering? There, again, this is a pro bono offering. Again, we're encouraging you to have that intake conversation with one of our executives. It's a 20, 30-minute conversation. If we can help you, we'll pursue it further. If we can't help you, we'll be very upfront about that. We understand your time is very precious. So any questions? And Alex, it's open to you too.
Well, I have a question. I'm not going to type it if that's okay. I thought this was very valuable to collect this data in real time and have you give your analysis. So you've done this webinar a few times. I'm curious to know, are you seeing a lot of the same trends in these? You know, like it was, I don't want to say overwhelming because we didn't have a huge data source, but it seemed like there was a clear front runner in a lot of these questions. Would you say, is it the same front runners of the needs and challenges people are facing?
Yes, it's fairly characteristic. If you go back, well, I want to ask Paige to go back to the first slide. We can share our presentation with you, but if you go back to one of the first slides we presented, that was a survey of businesses that we had done independently of these sessions that we're holding with you. So we can share the results of what we had today, but yeah, it's fairly common. I'll let others step in and speak as they see fit.
Yeah, let me add, everyone's struggling with top line revenue growth, and revenue growth is sales. However, I will say my work with a couple of organizations, one in Encinitas that everyone is familiar with, called Lazy Acres. So Lazy Acres in the last 90 days has experienced a 600% growth in their online business. Their biggest challenge right now is, do they decide to stay servicing only the zip codes that they have previously designed, or do they in fact leap and jump on the capability that's been made available to them, the opportunity that has been made available to them to service other zip codes beyond their current geography, which involves 2 things: investment in capital and equipment, which is called the machine that's going to take the driver to who delivers that yummy stuff to their clients. So is that a challenge? It is, but what a great challenge to have in a business that needed to figure out how are they going to transition. The marketplace told them. They paid attention to their data, their analysis. And that kind of growth, they could probably anticipate continuing to grow probably for the next 12, 18 months. So that's just one example of how that organization is pivoting to today's realities.
Yeah, and another just in terms of something positive that I'm seeing, a lot of the companies that I work with in an advisory capacity today, they're talking about supply chain being their biggest problem, and meaning
that back in out of V-shaped recovery, just being prepared that your suppliers aren't, their pipeline is not filled. So as things start to recover, you know, how are you going to manage through that to make sure you don't disappoint your customers because you actually can't fill a sale? I mean, that's probably sounds foreign right now, but that's happening in many, many places. You know, if they get their product from overseas, there's a long shipping window and there's all kinds. So a lot of people I talk to are talking about struggling with supply chain.
Yeah, and you know, follow-up questions is in Encinitas, we have a lot of small mom and pop businesses. We have a lot of food service, restaurants, coffee, breweries. Sam, you mentioned breweries had to change, which I'm gonna lean on that because maybe my favorite thing about North County is the amount of breweries, and you know, seeing each one pivot a little bit. But what about some of these smaller ones, you know, not the Belching Beavers, not the Stones who have the resources? What are your suggestions to some of the smaller businesses that might have one tap room, not a huge distribution of their beer now? What are some recommendations to those smaller businesses that you have?
Well, there's 2 points to that. One is, I think, goes to Miguel a little bit, right? A small brewery, even prior to the pandemic, the smaller ones had some challenges in terms of marketing and sales capabilities, right? A lot of times, you know, breweries, the margins are pretty tight, and so having a significant budget for marketing was probably always been a challenge of theirs. But the sales process has definitely changed. Consumers are interested in, you know, I shouldn't say the value proposition in terms of what these microbreweries are offering is still strong. I think there's a lot of interest from customers of breweries to try all these unique craft beers. So that value proposition stays strong. I think what they're losing out on, what we need to find out and how we can help and look at their business is, one, you're not get very much of the tourism business, which I think was a big it's a big attraction for North County, is to get people who are coming from out of town to try it. That's a little bit more of a challenge. There's just not as tourism, so you have to figure out how to replace that. And then the second thing is that companies obviously need to transition to direct to consumer. Most breweries don't do direct to consumer bottling or canning, just because there was some expense to it that was more than they wanted to spend. They'd rather make their margins in their tap rooms because the margins there are quite high. Restaurants, for a while, it's changed right now. Restaurants obviously were shut down for a while, but they're allowed now to do delivery, to do outdoor dining, and so I think that will pick up a little bit more. There's also the ABC has changed rules to allow a lot of these breweries to distribute directly to consumers with their current licensing. So I think the value propositions are still there. It's kind of going to, how do you get the word out to people in their homes that these things are available to them? I know that on a lot of social media things that I look at, I've seen a lot of breweries start popping up. So some of the breweries are starting to spend money on that social media direct to consumer business process.
There may be an opportunity too to look at what the wineries in Napa are doing, anywhere across the California coast as well. Paso Robles and so forth. They're actually going, you know, direct to consumer with online tastings, if you can imagine. And they set them up where they would, you basically sign up. They will send you the samples that they're going to review. They ask you to maybe buy a couple of their bottles, and then they do the whole tasting online, which I think is a very unique way of positioning it. So I don't know if that's the same opportunity that you could do with a brewery, but it's something to think about.
So let me build on this. And so, Alex, I'm going to prop up your business again. And everything that was just said lends itself to video capture, story branding, storytelling, and everything that currently is not available on a vendor by vendor basis online. I see people say, well, my menu's online. Well, that's great. Have you tried taking a look at it with your eyes? Because anybody above the age of 50 or 60 can't read it. You tell me you can read your current digitized menu from your website. Well, that's easy to fix. You change it to add images. See, people shop images better anyway than text. So Alex, that is perfect positioning. A winery, you know, how do you tell your story about your wines, your preferred beverages, your absolute best high margin product if you're not telling a story online? The tools are available, the skill sets are available. And then I would say that everything that Sam said, everything Scott just mentioned, all of those capabilities, you put it together with someone who can creatively, artistically create a memorable and impactful ad online, and then promote yourself everywhere on the planet, including YouTube. Now you're beginning to reach more people organically, but you're going to reach your preferred target market with money if you do paid advertising. And again, that requires some skills. It requires some great creation of content creation and content marketing. And so I think the tools are available to everyone. What you have to do is invest some time whiteboarding the problem, coming up with the right ideas and concepts on how to address it, and then take action. And all of that is doable within a 30-day period, if you're interested in doing that.
Yeah, and I would just chime in as well, because I've been seeing some really interesting things mostly with wine and tasting menus and you know, kind of online engagement. You then also need to sort of figure out the back end, because it's great to be flooded with requests for, you know, that half case or case of your new release wines, but if you haven't figured out the distribution, then that's super frustrating as a customer experience. So I've seen some really interesting data on that, and talking to some people, just that piece, sort of it has to be kind of a really solid effort.
Yeah, I just, one last thing. We, at the orphanage that I do all the marketing and the financing for, fundraising, if you will, we just launched a new website, and it's all around video content. It wasn't terribly expensive. We got some smart people that did the work and helped us pull it together. And we're doing ads on Facebook. Google, and a nonprofit actually gives you up to 10,000 to 15,000 of free ads per month. Many of these things, by the way, came from the recommendation and working with the senior team at Cal State University, San Marcos. But, and we're seeing a huge uptick in donations. So people come in, you want to draw them to your website, tell a story, you want to keep them engaged. And that's the key. If they have the engagement, then they're going to continue to, walk through all of the parts of your website, because today everybody's doing this with their phones and their attention span is like, 0. So somehow you have to engage them. And I think you do it through video content.
Scott, that was a great testimonial for sales funnels, for paid traffic and organic traffic. So thank you.
Which I'm sure we could do a whole webinar on its own. So, yeah, I mean, I think one quick question on the assessment that or the free consulting that you guys are offering. I guess two-part question. There's a lot of businesses that are having, I think Scott mentioned it's supply chain. They're actually doing very well and struggling in other ways. So business has been affected. Are those people qualified as well to apply for this? Or is it only businesses that are, I guess, hurt by it on the other side?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, all businesses are available. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll just simply mention that most of the business we dealt with through this program have been very small, less than 5 employees. So we find that the kind of things that we're offering, they may sound like big company offerings, but I think we can help small single owner, sole proprietorship businesses that perhaps have a few employees. Absolutely.
Great. And are we able to, as a chamber, can we send this out to our members as well, or is it only for people that attended the webinar?
Absolutely, send it out. Okay. Yes, we'd love to help. Yeah.
Perfect.
Send it out to any chamber on the planet that you'd like to. It's okay.
Yeah, we're here
Better
to
watch
serve.
out.
We're
I know
here
a lot
to
of chambers.
Yeah. We're here to serve the area, just to be very clear. Yeah.
Great, great.
Well, Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate you hosting us and appreciate the members of your chamber joining us today. And you'll see in the chat session, there's the link to apply for the program. Again, this will result in a 20, 30-minute conversation with one of our executives in the next 48 hours or so. And if we can help one of your businesses, we'd be delighted to do so. If it's not appropriate, if it's not something we can help with, we'll move on. But most of the businesses that have contacted us, we've been able to put a simple plan in place and be able to significantly help them. So we hope that they'll take advantage of this opportunity. And again, thank you for hosting us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for helping the businesses. I mean, everybody, one thing I've learned through this pandemic is we can't go this alone, and we all need help in some way or another. And really appreciate, the hand that you're extending to the small businesses and local businesses in this time.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great job, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.